What a Monday episode we've got for you guys on Carving Up Live tonight. Going to start off with Jalen freaking Hurts. Any debate, any idea that this guy is not one of the premier elite quarterbacks in the National Football League? Hopefully, yesterday he put all that to bed with the Eagles' comeback win over the Los Angeles Rams. Also talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Ugly win, but nonetheless, a win. Their first of the season against the New York Giants. Why I believe they are back in business as a legit Super Bowl contender in the AFC as if they ever left. Let's be honest. Also want to talk about the Cowboys getting dog-walked by the Chicago Bears. A lot of good signs from Caleb Williams. Yes, Dallas' defense is bad. As for Dallas, some really concerning signs for their future, mostly in regards to CeeDee Lamb's injury. I actually feel worse about the Steelers today than I did yesterday before they won to get to 2-1. I don't know. I'll get to that in about 45 minutes or so. Week 3 NFL recap. And, of course, at the end of the show, Ravens, Lions, great Monday Night Football game on tap for tonight. You are in for an absolute treat for Carving Up Live. So let's drop the beat, baby. Here we go. All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube as well as on X, Facebook, and on Instagram. I am Bryson Carver. As always, it is great to be with you on a jam-packed Football Monday after, I guess we're just going to call this the blocked field goal show because that was the story all around the NFL yesterday. Most notably, starting with the Eagles-Rams game, which we'll touch on in just a second. But you heard the open. All the games we'll get to, as we do every single Monday, touch on every single game in Week 3, more towards the end of the show, the ones we don't have time to dedicate an entire topic to, but very, very excited about all of it. I got to say, little concerned or a lot concerned about the Dallas Cowboys. I'll touch on that in about a half hour or so. Also get into the Steelers. My Steelers, why I'm actually feel worse about the team than I did going into yesterday, and I picked us to lose yesterday, and yet somehow I feel worse after watching the Steelers win over the New England Patriots. Touch on that. Touch on a myriad of other games in the National Football League. So let's get to business. But first impressions. You know, we've heard the expression before, the cliche, one might call it, before, that first impressions, you never get a second chance to have a first impression. And that's true. Like, once you present yourself a certain way to somebody, they kind of never forget it, for good or for bad or for indifferent. To use some sports examples, and I'll actually use a cross example in the sport of basketball. Steph Curry, for years, he's my all-time favorite basketball player, made me fall in love with the game. Heck, you see Steph Curry right over my shoulder right here. Love Steph. For years, the narrative, man, you know, Steph, he's a great shooter. Everybody knows, great shooter, can handle the basketball, but kind of needed KD for those championships, right? You know, LeBron's team was hurt in 2015. Like, Steph can shoot, but, like, he's not, like, actually in the discussion as one of the greatest players ever. I mean, come on now. He can't carry it. Oh, wait, he did in 2022. And it was like, oh, okay, we got to reframe how we thought about Steph. Now, was that an absurd narrative to begin with? Of course it was. But because of the ankle injury, Steph came into the league slight. He's never been, like, a physically dominant player by any stretch, although he's put on more muscle. But Steph's first impression, some folks for years, even to this day, there are a few that still haven't quite gotten over that. LeBron James, for years, man, because he had one bad finals in 2011, one bad 3-game stretch against the Mavs. LeBron's not clutch. Yeah, you can't count on him when the moment arises. Yet after that moment, he went to 8 more finals, won 4 championships, 4 finals MVPs, and led the greatest comeback in the history of the NBA Finals, down 3-1 in my Golden State Warriors. Don't remind me. And by the way, he has the most buzzer beaters in NBA playoff history. Matter of fact, I think he had 5. He had 2 in one single postseason back in 2018. Bron's clutch. But one bad moment early on in LeBron's career shaped a narrative around him that persists to this day. And I think you're seeing that with Jalen Hurts. And hopefully it's dying down. I hope so. Maybe football culture is different than basketball culture in the sense that once a guy proves the doubters wrong, we'll just kind of move on to the next thing. But Jalen Hurts came in the NFL, or even before the NFL, right? He's at Alabama, and it was mostly about Saban and the Tide defense. And listen, he had a great game against Clemson in the national championship game in 2017. Left the field with the lead, but then Deshaun Watson of the Tigers go down and win it. And then the next year, he doesn't improve, and he gets benched for Tua. And then the next year, he's Tua's backup. Then he transfers to Oklahoma. We're all like, it's probably Lincoln Riley. And then he's a second-round pick from Philly, and his first full year as a starter, kind of reliant on the run game and the defense and Shane Steichen. And now we're in a spot, and I talked about this during the offseason, like the narrative surrounding Jalen Hurts were driving me absolutely positively insane. Was this, system quarterback, to which I say, well, which system? because he's had 6 different offensive play callers, including the current one, which, by the way, I don't know what the heck he's doing with some of the play calling as of late, but 6 different play callers since joining the Philadelphia Eagles in 2020. Which system are we talking about? This isn't a Brock Purdy, Mac Jones situation where it's like, yeah, it's Kyle Shanahan. No. Nick Sirianni was not established before Jalen Hurts. None of the guys in Philadelphia, none of the OCs, none of the play callers were established before Jalen got there. And this idea, man, Saquon's the focal point of the offense. Saquon is the engine that drives the Philadelphia Eagles offense. Well, that's really funny. I saw a Super Bowl just 7 months ago against the Kansas City Chiefs, the dynasty, back-to-back champs looking for a three-peat. And wasn't the general consensus, what did it, like, regardless who you picked in the game, if you told somebody coming in, Kansas City's really going to hold Saquon Barkley in check. Like, Saquon's going to have a little over 50 yards rushing, about 2 yards a carry, isn't really going to break off any long ones. You're like, oh boy, Philly's in trouble. Oh, Kansas City's going to win this game. And Jalen Hurts shredded them. He had, I believe it was 3 or 4 touchdowns, passer rating well over 100, was outstanding throwing the ball down the field to Devontae and A.J. Brown and all of these guys. And then in week 1 against Dallas, the Cowboys, particularly in the second half, shocking to say something good about the Cowboys defense, especially after yesterday, held Saquon in check, did nothing in the second half of that game. And Jalen picked up 3rd downs, and Jalen was great with his legs and efficient with his arm, and they trusted him in a 3rd and long late to throw the football. And then yesterday, you got the perfect case study. Well, Saquon's done nothing in this game. Little under 3 yards a carry. Like, the Rams winning this game being like, 26, you're not beating us. And they came out with their hair on fire, up 19 in the second half. Matter of fact, they were up 19-7, and at the end of the first half, it did not feel that close. It's like, gosh, Philly can't generate any offense. Jalen's kind of struggling. Saquon's doing nothing in this game. And when it was all said and done, down 26-7, Jalen Hurts, when trailing, did this, ladies and gentlemen. 3 touchdowns, no picks, 62% completion, 212 passing yards. I thought he couldn't throw, and a passer rating of 118. And just to add some icing on this cake, folks, this all, Jalen, the Eagles don't trust him to throw it down the field. Let's show this stat. Jalen, when throwing past the sticks, he was nothing short of exceptional. 3 touchdowns, no picks, nearly 70% completion, $169 through the air, a passer rating of 144. That last drive especially, 3rd down completions, the 4th and goal, touchdown to Devontae Smith. You could say, well, there were blocked field goals. Jordan Davis, who, by the way, was moving 18 miles an hour, big fella, was moving on that block kick by the Rams to seal a win for Philadelphia. But they are not in this position if Jalen Hurts, the quote-unquote system quarterback, the guy who's completely reliant on Saquon Barkley, who, by the way, is averaging just over 60 yards per game this season. And Saquon's a great player. I think Saquon is going to get it right. But think about this, too. Lane Johnson goes down the game. They put Lane Johnson's backup in. He gets worked by Jared Verse, so they go to his backup. So Lane Johnson's gone. Saquon Barkley doesn't have it going on. Penalties, all of it. Defense is getting shredded by Matthew Stafford. Kudos to the defense. They held up in the second half. And Jalen Hurts, as he tends to do, cool, calm, collected, slow everything down. There was a moment, however. I wish we had the rights to show you the footage on the show without getting, copyrighted. But when Jalen throws that touchdown to Dallas Goedert to cut it to, I think at that point it was 26-14. Jalen, who's the ultimate cool customer. I remember, quick story. I remember when I was earlier this year, a lot of y'all know I was in the Disney College program this spring. When the Eagles won the Super Bowl and Jalen Hurts, or whoever was the MVP of the game, in this case it was Hurts, went to Disney World, I was like, shoot, I got to go see the MVP. So go to Disney, to Magic Kingdom, and I got to admit, it's the only time in my life I've gone to a Disney park, and I'm like, it does not feel like a Disney park. This is an Eagles tailgate, straight up. One of these days I'll have to show footage. Eagles fans everywhere. It was unbelievable. It was a sea of green. And Jalen Hurts comes down that float with Mickey and Minnie Mouse, and just, cool as a cucumber. At one point, even cracks a big smile. And a bunch of Eagles fans around me, you can even hear it in the video that I took, are like, oh my God, he smiled. Because it's just kind of, Jalen's a cool customer, man. I say all that to say this. Throws a touchdown to Dallas Goedert. And I don't know if he was talking to Sirianni. I don't know if he was talking to maybe the Eagles defensive players. Maybe he was talking to Big Dom, for all we know. But he looks at that sideline and he's like, let's go, fired up. That's not what we see from Jalen Hurts often. I would almost venture to say that was a, hey guys, let me cook. I can do it. You saw me do it in the Super Bowl when they took Saquon away. You saw me do it against Dallas when they took Saquon away. They've taken Saquon away. I'm cooking. And that's exactly what Jalen Hurts did. Arm, legs, mobility, clutch gene. Like, listen, I know he is not the natural thrower that a Mahomes and Josh Allen is. He's not as fast or as elusive as Lamar Jackson is. He's not as accurate as Joe Burrow is. I understand all of it. But playmaking, clutch gene, the ultimate mark of a franchise quarterback, and Jalen's absolutely established. He's a franchise quarterback. The question is he an elite quarterback? I think he is. And we have enough of body of work. The two biggest games of his life, he was A+ in both. And in the last 3 games, when the other team took the so-called best player, and I love Saquon, but best player away, he was sensational. A.J. Brown's fed up. Saquon, they're taking him out of the game. Lane Johnson is gone. His backup is getting worked. They got to go to his backup, and Jalen doesn't blink. That is the mark of a franchise quarterback. Folks, things are not going to go your way sometimes. In life, and certainly in football, especially in the NFL, is the ultimate next man up, any given Sunday. But when you have that guy at quarterback, if you're on Philadelphia's offense, you see number 1, we're good. We're all good. And I think Sirianni and this Eagles coaching staff needs to kind of take this game, take the Chiefs game, the Chiefs Super Bowl rather, take the Cowboys game and be like, he's good. Like, if Saquon isn't going, we got it. Number 1's got us. Jalen Hurts, arm, legs, he's going to come through. Shout out to Jalen Hurts. Let's see what Jalen had to say after the win against the Rams, holding himself and the Eagles offense accountable.
Man, regardless, it's always good to get a win. It's always good to get a win. And if that doesn't show you what type of team we are, I don't know what does. Now, we completely did that to ourselves in the first half. Completely. I mean, absolutely completely did that to ourselves. And that's something we gotta fix. It's as simple as that. It's unacceptable. We play so many styles of football where in that first half, we got to get out of this playing not to lose. We got to come out aggressive and play our game. You saw our game in the second half.
That feels like a little bit of a call out to the Eagles coaching staff. Like, guys, let's ramp up the offense a little bit. Listen, there was a lot of folks in Philadelphia like, dang, Jalen doesn't have a touchdown pass in the first, I guess, 10 quarters, the 2 games against Dallas and Kansas City, and then the first half against the Rams. Like, what the heck is going on right now? Cool's a cucumber, cool customer, steps up to the plate and gets the job done. Got some comments. My man, John Rivera, Fan Perspective Podcast. Appreciate the love, John. Shout out to you. Good friend of mine. Also good friend of mine, Ryan Flowers. He says, by the way, check out NFL Sunday, not NFL Sunday matchups. I'm getting his old show mixed up. NFL matchups tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, live on his channel and on the Grid Network. Definitely check out Ryan's show tomorrow night. He says the Rams blew it, but credit to the Birds for getting back into the game. And there's no question, like when you make a comeback the way that the Eagles made in the second half, it's kind of like the greatest comeback I've ever seen in football was New England over Atlanta. I think it's the best comeback we've all seen. Atlanta had to make mistakes. New England had to get breaks. You can't be in a situation where you're down 19 and then the defense is blowing assignments and the secondary's confused. Speaking of the secondary, I'll say that's kind of the big concern coming out of this game and coming out of the first 3 for Philadelphia. That back end is a problem for the Eagles defense. Like, we know how great their front 7 is. Zach Bond had a pick. Jalen Carter blocked a kick and was great as per usual. Jordan Davis is having the best year of his career. He not capped it, but the highlight comes on the block kick against the Rams, returning it for a touchdown, which, gosh, those folks that had Eagles minus 3.5 were just jumping for joy. Those that had Rams plus 3.5 just fell to their knees. They're thinking, I got Rams plus 3.5. What's the worst thing that happened? Kicker missed the kick. Oh, well, still win. And then Jordan Davis and his 18-mile-per-hour self moving and grooving down the field, shaking the earth at Lincoln Financial to get the W. But that is, I don't know if that's a Vic Fangio thing where it's like he just has to get that. Because if you remember, last year the Ravens had some defensive issues despite having relatively similar personnel. Now they had a new defensive coordinator, not the case with Philadelphia. But it's like, gosh, what is wrong with Baltimore's defense? Go into the bye, come out, best defense in football the rest of the year. Eagles certainly have the personnel to do it, but their back end is a little bit of a concern. Like it's a situation where they're going to have to win some shootouts. And by the way, look no further than next week. And by the way, again, NFL, what are y'all doing? Having this as a 1:00 game. Eagles, Bucks, 3-0 versus 3-0, mano a mano. Baker's balling, Jalen's balling. Man, it's a bummer that a big portion of the country, unless you got Sunday ticket, is going to miss that game. And by the way, week 4, 2024, last time Jalen Hurts started and finished a game that he lost. Will history repeat itself? Only time will tell. Very excited for that game next Sunday. Speaking of championship contenders and recent Super Bowl teams, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. So they won a very ugly game last night against the New York Giants, 22-9, in a game where it feels like most of the headlines mostly revolve around the Giants, Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart, Brian Dable, which we'll touch on in just a second. I want to start with the Chiefs, though. So watching that first half, I'm like, oh my God, this offense is broken. Mahomes has no protection in terms of the tackle position. Kelsey cannot separate, and he's getting up there in age. He's in year 13. Like, he's obviously not the player he once was. And we know, Rashee Rice, no Xavier Worthy, but can Tyquan Thornton separate? Can he get open? Can Noah Gray get open? Oh, yes, Noah Gray can get open, and then it gets called back for a penalty. Like, the Chiefs are beating themselves with playing undisciplined football. They cannot, and this is going to be, I talk about the Eagles' biggest concern is their secondary. Chiefs' biggest concern is their running game. It's non-existent. It's non-existent. I don't know if they're going to have to make a move at the deadline. I don't know if it's an offensive line problem. I can't imagine it's an Andy Reid problem because the Chiefs have in the past had decent running games. Pacheco's rookie year in 2023. I remember that, was it Damian Williams was the guy's name who some people thought should have been Super Bowl MVP in that game against San Francisco. Like, they've had, Andy Reid had Shady McCoy back in the day in his days in Philadelphia. Like, we've seen Andy Reid have good running games. I don't think it's a coaching or schematic problem. I think it's a personnel issue. Pacheco's not the same player he once was after the broken leg, and Kareem Hunt he's 3 yards in a cloud of dust. He's great. He's a great short yardage back. Chiefs sometimes even use him as a fullback. He's not an explosive player, not the way he was at the early stages of his career. We know the running back position ages quickly, which is why I was a bit surprised the Chiefs didn't address that in the draft, but regardless. But then second half, the deep ball's working. There's a funny play where Mahomes throws a deep ball to Tyquan Thornton, who it looks like he's kind of built a nice rapport with, and he's not able to survive the ground. So what does Mahomes do? He does the ultimate no play that only Mahomes and Josh Allen can get away with. Cam Ward did get away with it last week. It's not something you ever would advise your quarterback to do. Rolling to his right and throwing across his body, and Mahomes hits Tyquan Thornton on a beautiful deep ball, and the Chiefs end up scoring a touchdown there. Is that the main objective for a team with the history of Kansas City, getting off to the slow start that they did, 0-2, you cannot go 0-3 with the third loss being to the Giants, knowing we absolutely have to win this game, and we still couldn't come away with the W. If that had been the case, okay, the Chiefs just aren't what I thought they were. They're just not a contender this year. Still, could I have them make the playoffs? Sure. Super Bowl contender? No way. So that was an opportunity. Go in, get a W, go home, get ready for Baltimore. Let's get Xavier Worthy back. Mission accomplished for Kansas City. And so, and again, there is an element. I know a lot of people are kind of concerned with, oh man, Reed and Kelsey on the sideline. I remember talking about this after the Super Bowl, the most recent Super Bowl that they won a year and a half ago, where Kelsey bumped Reed, almost knocked the poor man over. In this case, Reed bumped Kelsey. And I'll say now what I said then, that first of all, both men came into the organization at the same time. Kelsey was drafted out of Cincinnati, I think third round in 2013. Reed took the job in 2013 after the Chiefs were god-awful before that. So there's a bit of a father-son dynamic here. A bit of a father-son type of relationship in a football sense. Is that, and Steve Kerr, different sport, I get it, but Steve Kerr had a quote about this recently, and I was like, thank you for pointing this out, that a lot of the casuals don't understand. He was saying, oh yeah, the Warriors have like 3 or 4 fights a year, 2, 3, 4 fights per season. And like, it's normal. Like, we've won a lot of championships. Guys have pride. Guys have a standard we're gonna hold. And if guys don't meet that standard, and things might boil over the edge. Not something you want to happen often, but it happens. Like when Drew Tranquil was getting mad at Chris Jones in week 1 after Chris Jones blew the assignment and let Justin Herbert run for the first down against the Chargers. People are like, oh boy, friction in Kansas City. Maybe you could perceive it as that, but I'm going to go on the limb and say, team that's gone to the last 3 Super Bowls, won 2 of them, best coach and quarterback combo we've seen probably ever. Outside of, I guess, Montana and Walsh I would have above them. Brady and Belichick is not above them because of Belichick's, but you get the point. Is that I'm going to hold you to a certain standard because of what we've accomplished as a team, and we cannot get complacent. Iron sharpens iron, as the saying goes. Well, that's what happened. I mean, even Andy Reid, he's interviewed by Melissa Stark of NBC, going to the locker room. They're walking to the locker room, and she asked him about it. And he's like, oh, I loved it. We got to see. I want to see some passion. I want to see some juice. I think it was good. Andy gets the bigger picture. So does Kelsey. So does this entire group. So I think it's a virtual non-story. And so, and if you're a Chiefs fan, you're looking up today and thinking, okay, we lost the best big play guy in our offense on the 3rd play of the season. still could have, if we get a stop on third down, Mahomes gets the ball back with a chance to win against the Chargers. Have you seen the Chargers as of late? Pretty good. They'll be, safe to say, very high on Bryson's best 10 on Wednesday. And then week 2, shorthanded. Philadelphia's coming off of extra rest. They weren't coming home from Brazil. And if Travis Kelce doesn't drop the ball at the goal line, we probably win the game. Like, that's the margin of error is that slim in the NFL. And that's what I gave the Chiefs major credit on. Is like, oh, they're getting lucky. It's like, no, they just find ways to win. They find a way to win in the margins. This year, they haven't been able to do that through the first 2 games. Last night, they beat a team that they should have beaten, and they got the job done. And so if you're a Chiefs fan, you're like, okay, Baltimore, they're coming to our house on a short week. We can beat the Ravens, get Xavier Worthy back in the lineup, get to 2-2, season flips. We feel great about ourselves. And then you go forward and you try and chase down the Chargers for the AFC West because that will be a 2-horse race. I'm out on Denver going, pushing for the AFC West. I'm not out on the Broncos as a playoff team. That team ain't competing with Kansas City and the Chargers for the division. And obviously the Raiders were never going to from the jump. For the Giants, Chris Collinsworth and NBC had a very, very ominous line in the second half of that game. And Collinsworth is it feels like in recent years, I don't know if he's heard like social media backlash or whatever, but it feels like he's not like taking shots at guys. Like that's not his job. It's not anyone's job to just, out here crushing people. But I feel like Collinsworth has been more blunt as of late in his commentary. And he said something last night. And honestly, hand to God, I pride myself as someone who loves the NFL, but I'm not in NFL circles, obviously. He, of course, has been his whole career. And he said, there's a saying in the NFL that you draft a first-round quarterback for the next coach. Essentially saying, well, there's a reason you needed, in most cases, there's a reason you needed a first-round quarterback to begin with, and he won't be able to fully develop or start the real major process of his development before you're gone, before the team continues to lose and you're fired. And if you're Brian Daboll, who I have defended over the last few years, but now you look up and say, oh man, last week against Dallas, what was it, 15 penalties or something insane? You see Daniel Jones with the Colts? Maybe he wasn't the problem with the Giants. I mean, he's balling out with Steichen and those weapons and that running game. I mean, Daniel Jones, now I'm not trying to make it sound like, oh, Daniel Jones was the focal point of the Giants. It wasn't Saquon Barkley or Brian Daboll. That wasn't the case. Daniel Jones had 15 touchdowns in 2022 when the Giants won 9 games. Problem is, they've won 9 games since then in the last 3 years. So that's Daboll's on the hot seat. Like, that's just the way of the NFL and the way Russell Wilson's playing, which, can we look at Russell Wilson's stats? I didn't put together a graphic just for, I don't want to be mean to Russ, but it's brutal. Russell Wilson last night, 18 of 32. If I can pull up his stat sheet here. Okay. 18 of 32, $160 passing, no touchdowns, 2 picks, a passer rating of 43. If that's not bad enough, QBR 0 to 100. And QBR, the QBR doesn't come out on ESPN until like hours after the game's over because they kind of rewatch the game, contextualize your performance, O-line play, you're running, some plays that should have been touchdowns but weren't, vice versa, picks that were picks that shouldn't have been. They take all those things into account. 0 to 100, Russell Wilson finished with a QBR of 6. And that last drive, which ended in the Boo Birds raining at MetLife Stadium, Giants are down 13, 3 minutes to go. Not saying they win the game. If they score, I think Kansas City probably bleeds the clock out. But listen, you got a chance. That's all you want in the NFL is a chance. First down, Russell, airmail. Second down, this is a weird call by Daboll. Quarterback draw with a 36-year-old Russell Wilson that gets, 2-3 yards? Third down and goal, airmail, balls over the end zone. Fourth down, ball hits the goalpost. Like, it's Russell's athleticism is shot. Like, we obviously we haven't seen peak Russell Wilson in like 5 years at least. Arm strength is there. The moon ball's still there, but he's kind of a one-trick pony. As a Steelers fan, I remember watching last year, defense was kind of like, don't give up the deep ball, don't give up the moon ball to Russell Wilson because he can't throw on the intermediate routes. He's not accurate in that regard. Well, you're seeing that right now with the Giants. And Daboll today, if you saw, he did not announce a starter for week 4 in a game that the Giants, by the way, are playing the Red Hot Chargers. Now, they're at home. Chargers are going all the way to Jersey for that game. But I would be, shocked. Not if Dart doesn't start. Didn't mean for that to rhyme. But if we don't at least see him play, because they've used him in formations like running the ball, handing it off. But I mean, as the starting quarterback or as the number one quarterback, I'd be shocked if we don't see him get some action in the game against the Chargers. Shocked. Because Dable's in the hot seat. We talked about Mike McDaniel. That seat's getting hotter in Miami. He kind of saved himself with that coaching performance against the Bills this past Thursday. Dable's going to need something similar, and it's not going to come from Russell Wilson. It's just not. I hate to tell Giants fans, but they're not going to be playing that Dallas defense every week where Russell's going for 450. And so, yeah, this is it's getting late fast at MetLife Stadium you could say for both teams, because both New York teams are 0-3, but the Jets at least kind of feel good about themselves today in terms of their future, in terms of Aaron Glenn. Okay, he's building a culture. You can't really say that right now with the Giants. Jackson Dart has to play at some point. And by the way, Tirico and Collinsworth, without giving away what they were told, basically said in the broadcast last night, like, man, when you hear the things they say about Jackson Dart, it's like, why isn't this kid on the field? I'm not saying he'll be this, but it does remind you. I remember Peter Schrager, shout out to Peter Schrager of ESPN. By the way, he was fully qualified to talk football, contrary to what some out there believe. Peter Schrager, I remember years ago saying, man, the way that these Chiefs players talk about Mahomes, like you just wait and see what this kid does. Like kind of called it before any of us saw it. It reminded me of that, hearing Tirico and Collinsworth say that. Now, I don't think Jackson Dart's going to be Patrick Mahomes, but he showed signs in the preseason of a guy who can be a franchise guy. But they need to get him sooner rather than later before Dable loses his job and before Joe Shane loses his job, which for the record, he should have. Let Saquon Barkley out of the building. So there you go. Looks like, okay, Schefter just reported, and we'll talk about this team later, that Brock Purdy has a chance to play this week. All right, so the Niners could get quarterback play that is like 5% better, but $50+ million more expensive. I know that sounds like a shot, but I'll talk about that later in the show. Mac Jones wasn't even that good yesterday, but listen, can Kyle Shanahan be the front runner already? Like runaway front runner for Coach of the Year? I mean, Bosa's out for the year, which we found out today, which just sucks. That's second time Bosa's blown his ACL. This team is just snake bitten. I've never seen anything like it. It's every year this team is ravaged by injuries. That's why 2023 was such a, oh my gosh, everybody's ready to go. Everybody's healthy. And what's made the loss to Kansas City in the Super Bowl all the more heartbreaking. But McCaffrey, you never know. Trent Williams is getting up there in age. Juwan Jennings didn't play yesterday. Ayuk's still hurt. And now Nick Bosa's gone for the year. And Purdy's been out. And Kyle Shanahan's got this team to 3-0. It's unbelievable. So, yeah, he right now, to me, he is the runaway for Coach of the Year right now. Kudos to him. All right, be back after the break to talk about them Dallas Cowboys. That was bad against the Chicago Bears, and it might get worse. Talk about that after the break on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Appreciate y'all stopping by on this jam-packed football Monday. After what was certainly a wild weekend in the NFL, as it always is. It's the league that always delivers. But also in college football, you had massive upsets. Obviously, we'll talk about that more on Saturday Morning Tailgate, which feel free. Check out the Saturday Morning Tailgate podcast. We were off this past week because I was at the Tennessee and UAB game. And by the way, you'll see some footage from that in the future on a segment of the Vol View, so definitely stay tuned. But the Saturday Morning Tailgate, that is going to be this Saturday morning, as always, at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time, live on the Grid Network. Myself, Tim Barnard, Arthur Hurst, hang around to talk college football, give our top 25 rankings, talk about the biggest headlines, give our predictions. We each have our own tailored segment to our team. So Arthur's got Buckeyes Breakfast. I've got, shocker, the Vol View. And poor Tim. Shout out to Tim Barner, man. This is a bad weekend for Tim because the Gators lost yet again. They had barely 100 yards of offense against Miami, and his beloved Patriots lost to my Steelers. I'll talk about that game in about 10 to 12 minutes or so. But shout out to Tim. This is gonna be a really tough opening year of the Saturday morning tailgate for him. So Tim, hang in there, buddy. So let's talk about America's team.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, how about them? They lost 31-14, got shut out by one of the worst defenses of football in the second half, in large part due, and we'll talk about Caleb Williams after this because there's a lot that needs to be said and should be said about his performance against Dallas. But the second CeeDee Lamb goes down in this game, I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't great, but I feel like Dallas can still win. They established the run game. I thought they ran the football very effectively in Chicago. Javonte Williams had 7.6 yards a carry. I thought the fact that they abandoned him the way they did in the second half, and I think Schottenheimer's done a good job. I love the fact that Schottenheimer has established the run game in the form and fashion that he has, but why abandon it when you did? Why abandon Javonte Williams? I know he had the fumble early, but I feel like that was way too much of I thought they abandoned the run too early in Dallas. What makes the Cowboys offense, the defense is obviously dreadful. What makes the Cowboys offense so, lethal and dangerous? Like, we know who Dak is, and Dak didn't have his best game. The two picks were a bit overblown. The first one was off the hands of George Pickens, who we will touch on this segment, obviously. And the second one was it's 4th down and goal, 5 minutes left. Dak's just trying to make something happen, and it gets picked. Like, what are you going to do? But when CD goes out, if you notice, you look at the Cowboys box score, and even watching the game, it's like, okay, this is very apparent. Dak only trusts Jake Ferguson out if CD's gone. And it's reflected in the stat sheet. Ferguson had 13 catches for 82 yards, and a lot of it was just dink and dunk. Do I trust that matchup with Pickens? They're doubling him. Pickens can't separate on a double team. Okay, let's go to Ferguson here. Let's just keep this drive rolling. And Dallas wasn't able to cash the red zone to get the pick off of Pickens' hands. You have the interception in the end zone. Like, all of those things came back to hurt the Dallas Cowboys. You had the fumble early. Those 3 plays kind of hurt them in the long run and killed any chance they had of coming back and winning that game. I want to talk about George Pickens, though, because, Cowboys fans, of which, by the way, there was a time in my boyhood in which I was a Cowboys fan. A long time ago, but I was. And so I have many friends to this day that are diehard Cowboys fans. And over the last, when did the trade happen? April, May? Oh, since the spring. From that time on, Cowboys fans have said, I know it didn't work with George Pickens in Pittsburgh, but it's going to be different in Dallas because he's got a better quarterback and Dak. I'm sure the culture in Dallas is more stable than Pittsburgh. And he's the number 2 with CeeDee Lamb, and it's going to work swimmingly. He's in a contract here. He'll be on his best behavior. And, of course, when it's all said and done, here was George Pickens on the sidelines, sulking, pouting, towel over his head, dropped a pass that led to an interception off of Dak Prescott. Is that when you need this guy to show the undeniable talent he brings to the table? I've said catch radius might be the best in football. Honest to God. Like, if you look at some of those highlights in Steelers training camp back in the day, which I would watch over and over, like, oh my God, this kid's insane. I remember watching him pregame warmups. This is 2019. This is years ago. Going to a Vols Georgia Bulldogs game, and watching this kid in warmups, I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna have 1,500 yards a season. Like, this guy's insane. It's always been the temperament. It's always been this. Is if stuff isn't going his way, he loses it. People get on Caleb Williams, and by the way, understandably so, and we'll talk about Caleb in a second, for his temperament and he doesn't move on from bad plays, which I will be harder on quarterbacks for not doing that, because quarterbacks, they have to move on quickly. They have to have amnesia. But receivers kind of do to a degree as well. And if you heard defensive players around the NFL be like, we knew when the Steelers were running the football because of George Pickens' body language. Because he knew, I'm not getting the football. I'm going to have to block. Hell with it. The run play will be what the run play will be. He would tip off the defense just with his body language to know Pittsburgh's running the ball here. It's going to Jalen Warner at the time, Najee Harris. By the way, prayers for Najee Harris for a quick recovery after that injury yesterday. Is that it, folks? There's certain people, it does not matter the situation that they're in. It doesn't matter that Dak Prescott is the model of leadership at the quarterback position. Doesn't matter he is We talk about Jalen Hurts being cool, calm, collected. Same could be said about Dak. I mean, Cowboys players have gone on for a decade. Man, this four, we trust four. He is Dak is he's the man. He knows what's up. He is as cool as they come. It doesn't matter that, hey, now you're the number one. Now you're going to get opportunities. One thing doesn't go his way. He loses it. And by the way, we're in week 3. CeeDee Lamb, knock on wood for him. Adam Schefter reported he could be out 4 to 6 weeks with his ankle injury. We haven't even seen because he slammed his helmet on the sideline, but we haven't seen a George Pickens sideline outburst yet. We haven't seen him cussing out fans, threatening fans. I mean, literally threatening fans. We haven't seen yet a dumb 15-yard penalty, probably for a firearm celebration of some sort, probably for kicking somebody or standing over a player, getting fined that week. We haven't even gotten the full George Pickens experience yet. We are 3 games in. CeeDee Lamb is out for 3 quarters, and he's already losing it. This is why I said, if Pickens is your number 2, if Lamb is healthy, and Lamb is one of the 5 best receivers in the sport, if CeeDee Lamb's in the lineup, Pickens is your 2. He gets that one-on-one coverage, Dak will find him. Dak will be in good communication with him. He'll have a good rapport with Pickens. But this idea, why do you think the Steelers, with all of their receiver troubles, and I have been as critical as anybody of the Steelers' just neglect of the offensive side of the ball, but I defended this trade. Why did the Steelers, with all of their receiver issues, not give this guy a contract? Because they couldn't trust him. Because he's temperamental. Because he has no control over his emotions. And so I think we know how bad Dallas' defense is. It's atrocious. Atrocious. I mean, for crying out loud, you saw Russell Wilson last night, 160 yards, 2 picks. Yeah, he threw for 450 on Dallas last week. Moonball after moonball, deep ball after deep ball. Caleb Williams, who we'll talk about yesterday. I mean, Roman Jones, a wide open. DJ Moore in that 4th and goal, wide open in the end zone. We know Dallas defense is abysmal. It feels like they use a pass rush. Oh, wait. Anyways, that's to be expected. We knew that coming into the season. But if let's play it conservatively and say CeeDee Lamb's out 3 weeks. Especially the Sunday night game against Green Bay. When Green Bay knows Pickens is the number 1, Dak knows, I better get GP the ball. He's going to lose it. Cowboys fans, I warned y'all, we are 3 games in. Just wait till Dallas calls a run play in a big situation. Let's be nice. Let's say they keep pace with the Packers this Sunday, which Green Bay on the road is a 6.5-point favorite, despite that loss yesterday to Cleveland. Let's say they keep pace. Let's say Dallas wants to establish a bit of a run, get the offense in a rhythm, then let Dak do his magic. But Pickens' body language tips it off. Hey, guys. Hey, defense. Hey, Green Bay. I'm not getting the ball, just so you know. So you ain't got to worry about me. 3 games in. Cowboys fans, try to warn y'all. You think it's bad now? It's about to get a whole lot worse. Whole lot worse. I could see a George Pickens, Dak Prescott confrontation on the sidelines in the next month. If, again, knock on wood for CeeDee, but if he's not back by then. Pickens is trying to get a contract, but Dak doesn't trust him to be locked in, to be engaged, to not drop passes on critical drives that lead to picks. I'm just saying, talent of a number 1. Not the temperament of number 1. And before we move to the Bears, I've got a comment from Patrick Brown, big Cowboys fan. As I always say, I'm at peace. Nothing surprises me with Dallas. Yeah, obviously. And, it feels like as much as Caleb Williams was running around yesterday, it feels like he could have used a mad, crazy lion running after him who used to wear the sticks, who used to wear number 11, who led the NFL in pressures. It feels like that would have helped Dallas, but I mean, what do I know? I mean, because that was kind of Jerry's thing. Is we're going to upgrade the defensive line. This is a move for the future. Okay. Could have used Micah Parsons yesterday. He certainly wouldn't have hurt your chances to win. That's what I do know. On the Chicago side, so this is obviously a huge win for the Bears in the sense that, hey, okay, our season's not over. Because I thought going in this game, as bad as these two defenses were, I'm like, oh, it's shootout city, baby. It is going to be I had 41-30 as the final score. Caleb's going to have a big game. He's going to kind of have his, okay, we're good moment, and Dak's going to torch the Bears, and he didn't. Some of it's a CeeDee Lamb injury. Some of it's he doesn't trust Pickens. Some of that was Dak, and Brady pointed this out during the broadcast yesterday. Dak didn't handle the blitz very well. I'll tell you someone who did handle the blitz, and we'll talk about that in just a second, is Caleb Williams. So Caleb in this game, and if we can show his numbers yesterday against the Cowboys, he was fantastic. 4 touchdowns, no picks, completed basically 68% of his throws, 298 passing, a passer rating of 142, and a QBR 0 to 100 of 86. And I know folks are saying, it's Dallas's defense. I mean, the touchdown he threw to Rome Odunze early, Odunze's wide open. Diggs slipped on the route, all of it. That flea flicker is the reason I fell in love with Caleb Williams back at USC as like, this kid he's got it. I've often joked in the first 2 weeks of the season, like, yeah, Caleb makes the hard throws look easy and the easy throws look hard. That's as difficult a throw as there is. Watching that play live, they run it with Swift, and usually in a flea flicker, you turn around, hands to the back gives it right, toss it right back to the quarterback. Doesn't throw it, but like, bam, here he goes, QB. Swift, I don't know if he's trying to get Caleb Williams killed, but just lollipops it. It's amazing. A Cowboys defender just didn't jump in and grab the ball and head the other way. Just lobs it to Caleb. Caleb catches it and just throws a dart. It was the throw of the weekend to Luther Burden for the touchdown, the flea flicker. Throw of the weekend that Caleb Williams made against the Cowboys. I get it, Luther Burden was wide open, but to catch that, release that, and hit him on the money the way that Caleb did, very few human beings alive can make that throw. So I thought it was sensational. But Caleb against the blitz as well. And this was my big thing last week. Because people are like, I don't know if Caleb's that good. I'm like, I'm not going to go there yet. But the thing Caleb has not figured out, he doesn't see the field well. He doesn't go through his progressions quickly enough. Now, some of that, I think, is a bit of a PTSD from the fact his last year at USC, O-line was bad. Last year in Chicago, O-line was awful. Well, Chicago added to their O-line. They got Joe Thuney. They've addressed it in the draft the last few years. Right? Ben Johnson, he has an emphasis up front because he was in Detroit. He knows how important a great offensive line is. First game of his career. First game since like early in the 2023 college football season that Caleb Williams did not get sacked. That's despite the fact Dallas blitzed it the way they did. And we can show you Caleb against the blitz yesterday. He was literally perfect. 2 touchdowns, no picks. 85% completion, 134 passing, and literally a perfect passer rating, 158.3. He was sensational yesterday. And I know, again, people are like, it's Dallas. Matt Eberflus might get fired midseason. I get that. But Eberflus knew Caleb. Caleb knew Eberflus. And who won that battle? You got to start somewhere. And if you're a Bears fan today, wow, we got a game next week against the Raiders. They don't look so good defensively. Caleb can use the momentum off this game. Here we go. We feel good about ourselves. And then we can build momentum to try and be a legit playoff team this year. I had the Bears as the last playoff team in the NFC. I thought that Dennis Allen would fix the defense. I'm not going to get on Dennis Allen too strong just because the Bears have been ravaged by injuries on that side of the ball. And obviously I knew Ben Johnson would address the Bears' offensive needs the way that he has. And Ben's been great. I think Ben Johnson's done an amazing job thus far in his early Bears tenure. He's held guys accountable. And so it's kind of like I said at one point, I think last week or a few weeks ago, I had the Bears getting the playoffs. But would you rather, if you're a Chicago Bears fan, after what you saw yesterday, defense sucks. We win 7 games, 8 games, but we go into 2026 knowing 18's the guy. Caleb, we know Ben Johnson's the guy. Caleb's the guy. We've got our franchise quarterback finally in Chicago. Or roller coaster, we win 10 games, but it's like Ben Johnson's amazing, coach of the year candidate. Caleb, we're still not sure. You would take the former. For long-term success, you would rather, we know we got our guy, but we don't make the playoffs because our defense isn't very good. I mean, the Bears, I didn't think even ran the football that effectively yesterday. I mean, if I can look at the box score, they had 87 yards, 3 yards a carry. Like, Dallas did do a good job kind of containing them. Now, DeAndre Swift wasn't totally healthy. We understand that, but I was impressed by Caleb yesterday. You can say that's against Dallas defense, but again, and he missed some layups. A couple short throws like, Caleb's got to get that down. That throw in the flea flicker, folks, that is one of the better throws you will see all season in the National Football League. Oh, Luther Burden was open. to catch a terrible pitch. I mean, terrible pitch by DeAndre Swift on the flea flicker. Catch it and get it out in one motion. What, 50, 60 yards down the field on a rope? That's why he was the number 1 overall pick. And I said back in training camp, remember there was some of those sound bites by Ben Johnson. It's like, oh, this isn't working so well. I don't know if this is. And I said, Ben's never worked with a quarterback like Caleb. Caleb's never worked with a coach like Ben. By midseason, by Halloween, early November, it's going to start to gel. Got to start somewhere. This is a good place to start. And I remember I wrote down in my notes when the Bears scored in their second drive after the Cowboys turnover. Caleb's been great. First 15 plays, that any competent offensive coach, not good, competent, in the NFL has a good first 15 plays, has a good opening script. You've been working on that all week. Caleb's been good in those first 15 plays against Minnesota, against Detroit last week. What is he beyond that? Yesterday, he was sensational. Against the blitz, perfect passer rating. So you have to feel good if you're a Bears fan today. You have to. Because you feel like now, okay, if we can build up this momentum, beat Vegas, we're 2-2. By the way, game after that, Washington. At Washington. Against that bad defense and that beat-up team. You don't think that there's a revenge factor, especially from Tyreek Stevenson, who was great yesterday. Tyreek Stevenson was the one on that viral video taunting the Commanders fans, and he was the one who tipped the ball that Noah Brown caught on the Hail Mary. That's on a Monday Night Football game as well. You don't think from Caleb it's like, oh, people think Jaden Daniels better? Watch this. I'm telling you, that was a massive win for the Chicago Bears yesterday. Massive win. Schefter, bad news for the Cowboys. Schefter just tweeted this, or he retweeted Todd Archer, who just reported. This just came in, I guess about 20 minutes ago. The Cowboys will be without rookie guard Tyler Booker, who got hurt yesterday, for 4 to 6 weeks because of a high ankle sprain suffered against the Bears per source. He played all 74 snaps. TJ Bass looms as starter. Cowboys already without Cooper Beebe, their center, for at least the next 3 games. So without their starting center, guard, and now CeeDee Lamb. So Dallas is kind of getting ravaged by injuries. So again, glass half full for the Cowboys. You're like, yeah, we're going to lose to Green Bay. Even with those guys, I think most Cowboys fans expect a loss to Green Bay this week. But then after that, Jets, I know the Jets have momentum, but Jets, you should win that game. And then at the Panthers. Panthers played well yesterday, but you also should win that game. And if you get to 3-3, after that's Washington. And like I said, Commanders have a terrible defense. So the sky's not falling, season's not over. I'm not trying to imply that, but I'm saying it from a season-long perspective, you're going to see a lot of this. For the podcast audience, it's a picture of George Pickens, towel over his head. And again, we don't even have the footage of him slamming his helmet on the sideline. Shout out to my former co-host, Addison Ragland, of the Triple Option back last fall semester. She literally texted me like, I can't stand this guy. Like, not verbatim. I'm not putting words in Addison's mouth, but she was like, Pickens used to drive her insane last year. And I, as the Steelers fan in the room, I'm like, well, but when he gets the ball in his hands, he's so dangerous. It's like, well, what if he doesn't have the ball in his hands? I eventually came around to her side of thinking, and I think Cowboys fans are too. You will not find one Steeler fan that's desperate to have Pickens back. Here we go. Speaking of the Pittsburgh Steelers, a win's a win. It's a black and yellow Monday.
Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow.
Yes, indeed. They got a W yesterday against the New England Patriots, 21-14. I got to say, I have seen some ugly Mike Tomlin wins. Of games where the Steelers scored over 20, that might very well top the list. Of games where we did not deserve to win yesterday whatsoever. My guy, shout out to Tim Barnard. He's a big Patriots fan, Boston Sports Summit. Check out his show every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, right after my show on Wednesdays. And he's just livid beside himself, like, we gave you all the game, all the fumbles. And a lot of that is true. The Patriots fumbled not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 fumbles. And you add to that a Drake May end zone interception that was mostly caused by old man Cam himself, Cam Hayward, getting his hand in there, tipping the ball, gets picked in the end zone. Right before the half, the Steelers maintained their 14-7 lead. But you look at the box score, and it reflects how dominant the Patriots were in the game. New England had 166 more yards than Pittsburgh in this game. They had over 100 yards passing. Drake May had over 100 yards more passing than Aaron Rodgers. More on Aaron in just a second. They had 55 more rushing yards than the Steelers and 7 more minutes of time of possession, and on 3rd and 4th down, far more efficient than the Steelers. But goal line interception, goal line fumble. By the way, early in the game, the fumble, Ramondre Stevenson fumble, which leads to the Steelers' first touchdown of the game. I feel, and I'm just keeping it real, folks, I feel worse about the Steelers today than I did 24 hours. Well, not 24 hours ago because the game was over, but than I did 36 hours ago. And by the way, I had us losing this game. I thought the fact, one area where I will give credit, and some of this goes to Arthur Smith and to Aaron Rodgers, and some of this goes, credit where it's due, to that offensive line, which I have ripped on the show over and over, is that offensive line that has been bottom 10 in the NFL easily, according to Pro Football Focus and according to my eyeballs. They've been awful. Can't protect Aaron, can't protect anybody. New England Patriots coming in this game, led the league in sacks, 0 sacks yesterday. Credit where it's due. That's the way for the Steelers to win. And in that regard, they were better than New England. They held up with Aaron Rodgers in the pocket. But one of the reasons I don't feel good about the Steelers moving forward is other team ain't turning the ball over 5 times. That's, if you needed that just to scrape a win against New England, who hasn't looked, Drake May's actually looked fine. I was actually a little bit impressed with Drake May yesterday. When he had time to throw, he was really good. When TJ Watt was collapsing the pocket, not so much. But just to scrape a win, 5 turnovers. New England basically blew 14 points of their own. Handed you a touchdown, obviously, on the Ramondre Stevenson fumble. And the fact that after the Pittsburgh Steelers went up 14-0, which was in the first half, Aaron Rodgers was unspeakably bad. We can show you the numbers. After it was 14-0 Steelers in the first half, these are real stats, folks. 1 touchdown, which kudos to him. Big time throw to Calvin Austin-Lake. Kudos to Aaron. Great throw. It was his only great throw of the game. 1 touchdown, 1 pick, completed 60% of his throws. He threw for it. This is a real stat, folks. 73 yards and had a passer rating of 66. And Aaron Rodgers, will play the bite, wasn't thrilled with his performance yesterday either.
I mean, it's what we're supposed to do. We got to make those plays. So we're not in those positions. 14-0, we're feeling pretty damn good about ourselves. We haven't been ahead by 2 scores yet, and 2 drives, 2 touchdowns, starting fast for the 3rd straight week. But I just didn't play great, and we kind of lost our rhythm. Had too many penalties and negative yardage plays, and didn't make them pay when we had opportunities.
Cam Hayward almost by himself, and Jabril Peppers, kudos to him, obviously on the punch out fumble that he got. That won the game for the Steelers. That's not sustainable, especially when you consider the fact, again, Patriots moved the ball effectively. Make that now 11 straight games that Mike Tomlin's highest paid defense in the National Football League gave up over 300 yards. That continues the longest active streak in the league. And next week, Dublin, Ireland. First of all, the travel's inconvenient, of course. That's a game that would have been a home game for the Steelers. It's in Dublin, neutral site. Against Brian Flores and the Vikings defense, that thing could get ugly fast. I say this as a Steelers fan that is happy my team won yesterday. If they lost, the season's over. The season's over if they lose that game yesterday. Because one thing, too, conditions were great in Foxborough yesterday. It was, a high 60s? For Foxborough, Massachusetts, for the Boston area, mid to late, official start of fall, I guess was yesterday, today, whenever. Pretty good. Good. It's much better than what's going to be in December, as we all know. And that's what Aaron put up. What's going to happen? I looked at the schedule. What's going to happen from mid-November on when it gets a little brisk all the way to straight up cold in Pittsburgh and other locations? Obviously, Pittsburgh is cold. Chicago, Baltimore, Cleveland, and again, a bunch of games in Pittsburgh. The heck's Aaron going to look like then? I saw Aaron did try a couple shots down the field. It looked pretty initially coming out of his hands because, as I've said many times on this show, Aaron throws as pretty a football as there is in the history of the league. Tom Brady literally said recently on a podcast, he's like, yeah, Aaron's the best thrower of the football ever. And you could certainly make that case. It's shot. I mentioned the Steelers O-line played well, and it did. Kudos where it's due. The times there were deep shots, I'm like, what? Is that intentional grounding? Like, where is Aaron even looking? And is yelling at teammates. Calvin Austin, again, I might send negative. Bryson, the Steelers won yesterday. How you win in the NFL matters early in the season for your long-term success. It is a great indicator of what you will be. If there are any sweeping, unless there's sweeping changes, which I don't think there will be. With the limitations at receiver, O-line was good yesterday. Don't expect that to continue. And Aaron made a throw late to Calvin Austin. Kudos to him. Other than that, put up the numbers again. He was bad. He was inaccurate. It was dink and dunk. It was the times he did take shots down the field. It's like, where was Aaron even looking on that? That's not even in the vicinity of a Steelers receiver. The pick he threw to start the second half, which again, Aaron said in the press conference, he got bailed out because of the fumble at the goal line by New England on that ensuing drive. I mean, there wasn't a steal in the vicinity. I'm just telling you right now, Steelers, and I think Steelers fans have become pretty realistic at this point on Mike Tomlin coach teams, particularly offensive struggles and the neglect of the quarterback position, the offense as a whole. We should not have won that game yesterday. There's no other way to put it. And yeah, Aaron was bad. He just was. He was bad. Made it throw late. He did not play well yesterday. Don't care what. I know that the pass rating came out to like 96. That's why I say watch the game. Dink and dunks. He made a throw early to Jonnu Smith that was solid for a big gain. Made the throw to Calvin Austin late. Other than that, it was either dink and dunks or badly missed deep balls and an ugly interception. Last 2.5 quarters, 2.5, 3 quarters, 73 yards passing. And it's not like the Steelers' run game was exactly ripping New England to shreds either. It was fine. Wasn't great. So glad the Steelers won, but you're not going to see me doing, you're not going to see me doing backflips. A, because I can't do backflips. B, because I don't have room to do backflips. And C, there's nothing to do backflips about, even if I could. I wish I could do backflips, though. Who was it? What game was I watching where a guy did one in the end zone? It wasn't Cam Scatterby, was it? I feel like I watched a game over the weekend, college or NFL, where someone did a pretty impressive backflip in the end zone after they score. I don't know. Guys can do it with ease nowadays. These athletes are off the charts. Okay, come back. We're going to take a break. When we come back in 1 minute, a recap of Week 3 NFL action, including a return of a Carving It Up mainstay. Stay tuned. 1 minute. Carving Up Live, Week 3 NFL recap. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Cheesehead Ozzy in the building for just this one segment. Packers. What happened? It went to Cleveland yesterday. There were offensive linemen during the week talking about, hey, I think we can go undefeated. We may go through this entire regular season not losing a game. And by the way, it was told to me, Cheesehead Ozzy, that last week on this show on Bryson's Best 10, that the Green Bay Packers are ranked number 1, even over the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, even over the Chargers, who are rolling right now, even over the undefeated Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen and a host of other teams. The Packers were numero uno. Yes, Cheesehead Ozzy does know Spanish. A little bit. 10-0. First of all, I know the Browns' defense is good. I know Myles Garrett wrecks games with the best of them. It was awesome yesterday. But you had 10 points. Even still, your defense is balling out, doing its thing, getting to Joe Flacco, making his life miserable. Browns finally put together a drive, get a field goal. Your defense really held up there. And Jordan Love. Pal, that was bad. That interception just threw it right in his breadbasket. Browns returned to the 4-score touchdown. Even still, got an opportunity to win the football game. And old man McManus, Brandon McManus, gets his kick blocked. Old man Joe Flacco, what is this, 2015? Brandon McManus missing kicks. Joe Flacco doing his thing. Gets the Browns to field goal range. They execute the clock management, getting the ball spiked perfectly. And the young kicker for Cleveland, 55-yard bomb right down Broadway, right into Lake Erie. What the heck happened, Packers?
Cleveland! This is for you! Oh!
That's the one time I probably will enjoy ever hearing that soundbite. So Cheesehead Ozzy's out. Seriously, though. The heck happened, Green Bay? 10 points? Up 10-0 under 4 minutes to go, and you lose? That ain't good. I think you'll be fine in the long run. But you got to get games like that. You got to find a way to win a game where you're up double digits on Joe Flacco and the Browns. The Cleveland Browns. Late in the fourth quarter in the form and fashion in which you were. Jordan Love pick, block, kick. Man, not ideal for the Green Bay Packers. As some of you know, I've got a close relative of mine, my sister, who's a Packers fan, and let's just say she didn't want to talk about it. She was very vocal about, Super Bowl. It's funny. We went to the Tennessee game on Saturday, and like I said, you'll see some footage from that game on the channel coming up soon. We got some fun stuff with that. But a conversation came up about the Packers. Like, man, we're going to the Super Bowl. San Francisco, here we come, babe. We're representing the NFC. I'm like, okay. Y'all good. I picked y'all to win the division. You're a contender. Okay. We'll see what happens. And going great. Everybody has bad losses any given Sunday, like the Pacino and Jamie Foxx movie. But not great. Not great for the Packers. They'll be fine in the long run. Micah Parsons has his return to Dallas, but not ideal. Vikings, my gosh, just blew the doors off of the Cincinnati Bengals. How about the kid for Cincinnati? From Minnesota's defense? How about Isaiah Rodgers, who's an excellent corner? Isaiah Rodgers, in the first half alone, a pick six, a fumble recovery for a touchdown, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 forced incompletion. I think it's safe to say this guy's well on his way to NFC Defensive Player of the Week. Just a Brian Flores special. And if you're Joe Burrow watching this game, what are you even doing there, buddy? What are you doing? You're healing from the turf tone. You're watching Jake Browning, who I think is a decent backup. And you're watching that. And I know it's Minnesota's defense, but still, just work that Bengals offensive line. The turnovers. Carson Wentz looks like, old Carson Wentz. Back 2017, pre-injury Carson Wentz against this terrible Bengals defense. Lou Anarumo was the problem. Yeah, Lou Anarumo's kind of cooking in Indianapolis. Have you noticed? It was a personnel issue, not a coaching issue. Joe, you got to get out of there, buddy. This is your career's over if you stay with this garbage of a franchise. I hate to put the stat up again, but it's just to further encourage Joe to leave Cincinnati. Can we show the numbers? We showed this last week. Most hits taken per game since 2006. Andrew Luck, 6.8. Deshaun Watson, 6.7. Joe Burrow, 6.6. The guy on the far left, Luck, his career ended far before it should have. The guy in the middle, Deshaun Watson, obviously some off-field stuff. We know about that. But prior to some injuries that he had, pretty darn awesome quarterback. And then Joe Burrow, they can't get the O-line right. If I were Joe, I'm definitely not coming back this year. Heck, no chance I'm coming back this year. And the Bengals are cooked. As for Minnesota, again, credit where it's due. Listen, I've never been a fan of Carson Wentz. Ironically, the very first show I ever did in the history of Carving It Up, October 21st, 2019. I remember where I was. Literally right across the room over there was where I did my first show. It was on audio only. Thank God my first take in the history of Carving It Up was a good one. I said, it was after a Cowboys win over the Eagles on Sunday Night Football. I said, Dak Prescott is clearly better than Carson Wentz, and anyone who argues otherwise is insane. Thankfully, that take aged beautifully. Carson went 6 straight years, 6 different teams, but he was fine yesterday. Vikings go to Dublin, Ireland to play my Steelers. I said earlier in the show, I said during the Steelers segment, I think they're going to beat us. I think Brian Flores is going to make – I could see Aaron throwing 3 picks in that game. I think Aaron's life is going to be a living hell against Flores, that D-line, against our O-line, and Carson Wentz and that Vikings running game. Without Aaron Jones, Kevin O'Connell will do what he does and probably put up over 300 yards, which would be the 12th straight game that Mike Tomlin will have allowed such. That leads the National Football League. I'm just calling it in advance. Okay. Credit where it's due. We're 3 games in, and I mean, again, it's only 3 games, but it's also Daniel Jones. If this continues, I'm not even kidding. Lucas Oil Stadium needs to play the Indiana Jones theme song anytime the Colts offense comes out, or at least when Daniel Jones is introduced during pregame and he runs through the tunnel. Danny Dimes yesterday, and he is Danny Dimes right now against the Titans. 18-25, 228, a touchdown passing, QBR 0 to 100 of 94. The deep ball's working. Alec Pierce, who was concussed in this game, hopefully he's okay long-term, but the deep ball's to Alec Pierce. My man, I keep mentioning Tim Barnard, but shouts Tim again. He mentioned when I was on Boston Sports Summit last week, like, man, screw Daniel Jones. He's siphoning touchdowns from Jonathan Taylor. Well, not this week. 100 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns for JT28, who I've said for years, most underrated back in the league, and the Colts are 3-0. Can we do, sometimes I'll do blind resumes on the show. I think they're really fun. I think it's sometimes contextualizes how well a player is playing. So can we show this? I call this, that looks awfully similar. So you see Daniel Jones on the left, mystery player on the right. Mystery player has more total touchdowns, but both have no interceptions. Daniel Jones, 2 more total yards, basically the same amount of yards. 2% better completion percentage, 3 points better in terms of the passer rating, 10 points better in terms of QBR. Both guys are 3-0. That second guy, the reigning MVP of the NFL, Josh Allen, who, by the way, I picked to win MVP this season and still feel pretty good about that. So Danny Dimes, through 3 games, small sample size, has been as good, if not better, than Josh Allen. Obviously, he's not a better player than Josh. That goes without saying. But this Colts team, I think, is legit. Anarumo has fixed their defense. Now, they've got a test next week. Rams on the road. LA's a 3.5-point favorite. LA's going to be pissed after they lost the game the way that they did against Philadelphia. But Steichen has kind of established, like, yeah, I'm the guy who helped Jalen Hurts sort of start his ascent towards being an elite quarterback as the Philadelphia Eagles play caller back in the day before I got this Colts job. I'm the guy who got Gardner Minshew darn near to the playoffs in 2023. You're getting mad at me because I couldn't fix Anthony Richardson, the most inaccurate quarterback since Tim Tebow? Something about those Gators quarterbacks that were number 15. I don't know what it is. But regardless, Pittman, Alec Pierce, Tyler Warren is a special talent at tight end. Jonathan Taylor, good O-line. Might want to have to consider extending Daniel Jones if this continues. Long season ahead. But there you go. Okay, sorry. Warren Sharp just tweeted us. Warren Sharp's a great analytics guy on social media. I highly recommend that you follow. He just tweeted, the Steelers have 417 yards fewer than their opponents this year. The reason they're 2-1, 32 points off turnovers, 0 points allowed from turnovers. So they're bailing Aaron Rodgers out, plus 32 off turnover margin, and plus 31.9 EPA off of turnovers. And he puts below that the Steelers voodoo continues. Listen, there's only so long that voodoo will last. I can say as a Steelers fan, we tend to fizzle out late in the season. I know I sound negative, but I'm telling you, I've seen this movie before. I'm not going to get fooled again. Certainly with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. What other games we have yesterday? AFC South matchup. It was an ugly one. Jaguars over the Texans 17-10. You know, again, I take notes during these games. One of the things I wrote down was, for whatever reason, Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. cannot get on the same page. I don't know what it is. Like the game against Cincinnati last week, obviously the 4th down play where Thomas Jr. drops the ball. But late in the game, Trevor throws a bad pick. Nico Collins wide open. Stroud hits him for a touchdown. And Trevor hits his man, Brian Thomas Jr. on a deep ball. ETN scores the next play, and the Jaguars end up winning a pretty ugly game. Here's something interesting for Jacksonville, and here's one of the reasons I thought that they would be the AFC South champion, and I still feel very good about that today. All of last year, they had 6 picks. This year, through 3 games, 7. So they've been living off of turnovers. I have to imagine that as time goes on in this new system with Liam Cohen, who's great in the red zone, great red zone play caller, the O-line for Jacksonville's good, the weapons are there, Trevor's going to settle in. I'm telling you, I said before the year, I've been a Trevor Lawrence fan from the jump. It's put up or shut up time. And I think he's going to put up. I think he's going to do his thing. Ugly win, but they got it. They can build off of this. Who the Jaguars have next week? They've got, wow, that's tough challenge. At the 49ers in San Francisco, and then, by the way, Chiefs right after that. So they're going to be tested, no question about it. But I like what the Jaguars showed defensively, and offensively, they were opportunistic, so kudos to them. Upset of the week, baby. I hit on it. Upset of the week, ladies and gentlemen. I hit the nail on the head. Panthers over the Falcons. Now, I had 23-21 as my final, but I thought, first of all, even if it wasn't my upset of the week, it was going to be on if I were a bet man, which, by the way, first winning week of the season, only Dallas kind of screwed up for me, but 2-1, baby. Thank you, Seahawks, who we'll touch on. Oh, my goodness, we'll touch on that. And thank you to the Arizona Cardinals as well for covering plus 2.5. But, you know, I'm watching Carolina doing their thing. I thought the fact that Atlanta was a 5.5-point favorite was crazy. After how inept they were offensively last week, after how Carolina's defense and their offense really showed up in the second half of that game against Arizona, I thought they'd continue that momentum. They did. Bryce was relatively efficient. Again, the numbers aren't anything to write home about. Only 121 yards passing, but a QBR of 70, 0-100. He did run for a touchdown. They mostly feasted off of Michael Penix Jr. turnovers. Listen, I'm a Michael Penix Jr. fan, but that was not his best day at the office, to say the very least. We got a Kirk Cousins sighting when it was all said and done. So Atlanta next week, they've got Washington. Washington-Atlanta was a great game last year, if you remember, between Penix and Daniels. So hopefully we get that again. The Panthers go to New England to take on the Patriots. I'm probably leaning New England in that spot. They're going to correct the turnover issues. But good win for Carolina. Like I said, and everyone panicking the Panthers. Oh, they're one of the worst teams in the league. Not so fast, as the great League Corso would say. Oh, I already talked about Eagles-Rams. Bucks Jets. My gosh. I mean, crazy. Looks like Tampa Bay's doing what they're doing. They're going to run away with it. You know, Mike Evans unfortunately gets hurt. Hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later. And Mike Buka is he's sick, man. Just making one-handed catches on the sideline. It's like, Tampa's going to kind of cruise to a 3-0 start here. And the Cardiac Bucks falls, for whatever reason, fall asleep in the second half. Tyrod Taylor gets going. The Jets defense gets some stops. Aaron Glenn, he's a defensive guy. And a blocked field goal back the other way for a touchdown for the Jets to go up with, I think, under 3 minutes to go. And Todd Bowles, this is what Todd Bowles said after the game when he was asked about the blocked field goal for a touchdown.
What's your thoughts as he's running for a touchdown to go ahead?
Yes, who's running for a touchdown?
McDonald.
Oh, my thoughts were going from when he's running for a touchdown. Excuse my language, like you got to be me.
I imagine so. But Todd Bowles knows. Bucks fans know. Old Baker, touchdown maker. He didn't need a touchdown. This is just need a field goal. Baker did his thing, got him in the field goal range. Bucks walked it off at the gun on a walk-off field goal. Baker Mayfield and the Bucks, the first team in NFL history, 3 straight games to open the season, to have the go-ahead score, or the game-winning score, rather, in the final minute. Did it against Atlanta. Emeka Egbuka did it against the Texans a week ago exactly on Monday night against Houston. Rashawn White, and walk-off field goal in this instance. Baker doing his thing again. He's adding, like I said, Josh Allen was my pick to win MVP. I said Baker would come in second. He's building the resume, at least in terms of clutch moments coming through for his team. Tampa Bay could be 0-3 instead of 3-0. And a lot of that is attributed to old Baker touchdown maker. Commanders take care of the Raiders 41-24. Deebo Samuel had a big game, big run back on a return. Ashton Genty finally showed some promise. He kind of lowered the shoulder, delivering the punishment. I still have major questions about this Commanders defense, but as we all know that, when your quarterback goes down, you want your backup to be obviously a lesser version, but similar enough stylistically to where you really don't have to change the offense that much. That's why, and I'm going to get out ahead of this. Knock on wood. God knows I'm not wishing injury upon Lamar Jackson. Or anybody, but Lamar is just sensational. But the fact that Cooper Rush is the Ravens' backup is really weird to me. Cooper's a good backup. He's nothing stylistically like Lamar Jackson. Marcus Mariota, similar to Jaden Daniels, obviously does not, even go back to college, does not bring the arm strength that Jaden does to the table. But mobile, can move. accuracy's kind of hit or miss with Mariota, but Kingsbury doesn't have to change the offense that much. And that's why you saw what you saw. Commanders getting a victory yesterday against the Raiders. Next week, they've got Atlanta, as I mentioned earlier. That's a game where the Falcons defense kind of got torched last week. We'll see what happens. I think Washington is going to end up being fine. Still them as a playoff team. They need to get Jaden Daniels back sooner rather than later. Okay. The game of the day yesterday was Rams-Eagles. The game of the day that nobody saw, unless you're on the West Coast or you have Sunday ticket, was Broncos-Chargers. This was a bit of a moment for LA. These are the games that they always lose. Oh, my whole life. Like my buddy Ryan Flowers, catch his show, by the way, NFL matchups tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Grid Network and on his YouTube channel. He's got a saying, Charger's going to charger. It actually became a verb, chargering. They always find a way to lose the close ones. And down 7 in the fourth quarter, it's like, gosh, Denver's going to steal this thing. Denver has that bad loss to the Colts, and they screwed up on special teams, and no Khalil Mack for the Chargers, and man, and Justin Herbert. I said that Caleb Williams had the throw of the weekend. Herbert had the second best throw of the weekend. Breaks out of the sack, rolls to his left, hits Keenan Allen on a touchdown, which kudos to the Chargers for bringing Keenan Allen back. And can we show what Herbert did in the fourth quarter of this game? I mean, he was phenomenal. A touchdown, no interceptions, 80% completion, 123 passing yards, and a passer rating of 123. The tying score obviously drove him into field goal range. Dicker, the kicker, walked it off at the gun to get the Chargers to 3-0. I thought LA was a playoff team coming into the season. I did not think they were a Super Bowl contender. My tone has changed on that. That's a Super Bowl contender. I've always been a Jim Harbaugh guy. He's a brilliant coach. They're starting, and I mentioned this on Wednesday's show. Now they're getting the running game going. Now Amari Hampton is kind of running with some steam a little bit. Now they've got a legit trio. Quentin Johnson's back. Back from his days at TCU, so to speak, when he was a first-round pick, from the Horned Frogs. But catching deep balls, Lat McConkey's doing his thing. Keenan Allen catches the tying touchdown. And this Chargers defense doing what they did. Now, to be fair, I counted 3 brutal misses by Bo Nix on deep balls. 2 to Marvin Mims, 1 to Cortland Sutton, one of which I think was to Mims on the Broncos' last drive of the game before they kicked it back to the Chargers. They went down and Dicker, the kicker, hit the walk-off. So that's, again, another kind of a gut punch loss for the Broncos. I think they'll be fine long-term. But as for the Chargers, man, 3-0, all 3 wins in division in the AFC West. I'm holding to my prediction that the kings of that division, the Chiefs, will come back on them. But that is the big question. The big question, can Herbert show up in the biggest games? He was the quarterback of a team that blew a 27-0 lead to the Jags back in 2022. And he either equaled or exceeded his season total in interceptions in a game they were favored against the limping across the finish line Texans in the postseason last year. That's the knock on Herbert. We've crushed Lamar for performing poorly in the playoffs. We've crushed Dak for performing poorly in the playoffs. We've crushed Josh just for losing to Mahomes. Same energy needs to be showed to Herbert, but the talent's always been there. I think he's kind of putting it all together. I really, really do. This is a real legit Super Bowl team. No questions asked, are the LA Chargers. This next team isn't necessarily a Super Bowl team. I would not go that far. Seahawks over the Saints 44-13 in a game where the score weirdly does not indicate how dominant of a performance it was. Folks, the Seahawks led 38-6 at halftime. 38-6. The Saints had 5 penalties in the first quarter alone. Look, I had them winning 2 games coming into the season. This was one of my, if I were a Batman games, I'm like, you tell me I get Seattle 7.5, that's it? Oh, thank you very much. Saints playing their first road game. The defense is awful. The offense is abysmal. Kellen Less, as my buddy Patrick Brown calls them, terrible play callers. I've said for years on the show. And Brandon Staley running that defense. Saints are going to be the worst team in football. Garrett Nussmeier, Lenore Sellers, you are a New Orleans Saint in about 7 months. But yeah, that was bad. And not to take credit from Seattle. I think I saw a stat where Sam Darnold throwing past the sticks had a perfect passer rating. Sam was fantastic. And the Seahawks now are in a position. Thursday night game, short week at Arizona. If Darnold doesn't fumble off the butt of his offensive lineman, as funny as that is to say, And by the way, if before that Reek Woolen doesn't catch an interception that was right there for the taking that Brock Purdy threw him, Seahawks are 3-0 today. Then maybe they're a little bit better than I thought. And so good win for the Seahawks, taking care of business. As for the Saints, my gosh. This is bad. Real quick, this was just reported, Todd Archer. Jerry Jones said the Cowboys will consider placing CeeDee Lamb and Tyler Booker on IR. So that would mean they're automatically out for 4 weeks. That's bad news for Dallas. That is bad news. I'm telling you, I'll say it again. Cowboys fans, get ready from some George Pickens outburst. You thought yesterday was bad. Take it from a Steelers fan. It's going to get a whole lot worse. And he's in a contract year too. So he's going to want the football. And if Dak doesn't get it to him, he's going to lose it. Niners over the Cardinals. Last game that we'll predict, obviously, Lions and Ravens. Niners over Cardinals, 16-15. Just give Kyle Shanahan coach of the year right now. I've seen enough. What this man is doing is insane. The team's falling apart. Nick Bosa was announced today, ACL tear, gone for the season. So it's like, crap, that's Bosa's torn his ACL twice. So now it's basically just Fred Warner and a bunch of guys. Saleh's doing, by the way, Saleh, to his credit, Robert Saleh's doing an amazing job with that Niners defense, as I think we all expected he would. Ricky Pearsall's been a legit player. Is he a true number one receiver? He might be the number one, even when Ayuk comes back for San Francisco. But to win a game against Seattle, in which Brock Purdy was not good. I get he had the touchdown pass at the end. That, I just talked about it with Seattle. That should have been picked if Reek Wallen just saw the ball coming. And to win 2 games with Mac Jones at quarterback. Left for dead after New England. Noodle arm, can't move well, bad leadership, dirty. I've called him. He's dirty Jimmy G. There's no difference. Well, this man went to a Super Bowl and an additional NFC Championship game with Jimmy G. He got Mr. Irrelevant, who is better than Mac Jones. I want to be clear on that. He is. Better arm, moves better. He got to another Super Bowl and an NFC Championship game with that guy. And he's 3-0 with his team falling apart and Mac Jones as the quarterback of the majority of his team's games. Give him coach of the year right now, full stop. This is insane what he's pulling off. Is it sustainable? Probably not. But even still, if the Niners are able to get in the playoffs at 10 or 11 wins, I think unless Ben Johnson, the Bears go on a crazy run, give it to Kyle Shanahan. I've seen enough. It's unbelievable what this guy's doing. Not that I didn't know he's a great coach already. I've said he's the catalyst for basically all of the Niners' offensive success since he's been there. And it does continue to add to what I've been saying. I know myself and folks like me are the bad guy for saying Brock Purdy's probably closer to the guy that he was last year than the guy who led the league in passer rating in 2023, who got MVP votes, despite not being the most valuable player on his own offense. That, going back to what Jalen Hurts, I was talking about with Jalen Hurts earlier, and Jalen, he's a system quarterback. Which system? One of the 6 that he's been in Philadelphia? Brock Purdy. That is a system quarterback. Mac Jones is winning in this offense. Jimmy G got to a Super Bowl with this offense. Just saying. All right, before we get out of here, big game tonight. Really fun Monday Night Football game tonight featuring the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens. Here we go. All right, so the game kicks off a little less than an hour from now at the time this show is airing live. So the Ravens in this game are a 4.5-point favorite over Detroit. Obviously, the Lions are coming off of a dominant start-to-finish game against the Bears last week in which they hung 52. Felt like they were kind of sticking it in Ben Johnson's eye, like, hey, we don't need you, Ben. And so the Lions' offense is going to be fine. We know the personnel they have. Goff, Gibbs, Montgomery. St. Brown had 3 touchdowns for the first time in his career. Laporta, I've always been a fan of at tight end. I still have concerns about that defense. And I think I was obviously blown away by Lamar Jackson in that game against the Browns last week because Derrick Henry did virtually nothing. He had, I think it was 11 carries for 23 yards. He did nothing in that game. And Lamar was, I know it's the Browns, but you saw him yesterday against the Packers. Lamar was sensational. I still have major questions about this Lions defense. I think Aiden Hutchins is going to have like 2.5 sacks. Going to have to blow up some plays with Derrick Henry in order to give this team a chance to win. I think it's close-ish. I think the score will not be indicative of the way Baltimore controls the game. They'll play on their terms at home Monday Night Football. I love what they've shown defensively. Again, I know that first game against Buffalo, that was Josh Allen being Superman. That was not, the Ravens just blew it. I mean, there was a tip touchdown to Keon Coleman. Josh was phenomenal in that game. I think the Ravens have one of the best defenses of football. I think they'll show it. 27-20 is my final score. I honestly hope I'm wrong as a Steelers fan, but 27-20 is the final score. The Ravens will beat the Lions and cover the 4.5-point spread. It's a bit rich. I don't love 4.5, but I'll take it hesitantly. This might be a Bryce's Bleak Bet game had this been on a Sunday. But yeah, there you go. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on X, Facebook, and on Instagram. All kinds of stuff coming down the pipe. Some content on the YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button right down there. Obviously, well, I guess right here is where you can see the YouTube channel if you're watching Carving Up with Bryson Carver. Subscribe there. Subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcasts. Check my show out. Hit the notification bell. There's going to be a lot of content coming your way in the coming days from today's show, from future shows. So definitely stay tuned for that. Very excited for Wednesday. Going to have a special guest, a brand new member of the Grid Network we're going to be introducing to you guys on Wednesday, so stay tuned for that. So have a great week. We'll see you guys then. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. Please don't blow this, Red Sox. I'm getting nervous now. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.